For the third consecutive day, Palestinian civilians in Gaza have been shot at trying to receive humanitarian aid. Who is firing at them? And to say that there are conflicting reports would be quite the understatement. Now, when I want to know what's happening on the ground, I go to TBN Israel's Yair Pinto. So Yair, what is actually happening on the ground?
So yes, let me explain the situation. Since this war began, Israel allowed thousands of humanitarian aid trucks to enter from Israel into the Gaza Strip to help the Palestinian people receive humanitarian aid. But what actually happened is that Hamas, the terrorists of Hamas, immediately took control of these humanitarian aid trucks that were funded by the United Nations and other international organizations in order to help the Palestinian people. And instead of giving this food, this flour, this water, medicine to the Palestinian people that actually need it, Hamas and the terrorist organizations basically stole it and sold it at high inflated prices to the Palestinians. And that was a way for Hamas to maintain its revenue throughout this war. That's how Hamas was able to pay salaries. That's how Hamas was able to buy weapons. That's how Hamas was able to control the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. Okay, so Israel thought, okay, this does not make sense because we are fighting this terrorist group that has our hostages, the Israeli citizens, being kept in the Gaza Strip, and we are giving them basically money to keep fighting us. So let's cut the entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, which Israel did, and make sure that only the civilians get this aid distribution, this food. So what Israel did, together with the United States and international companies, was to create these safe zones. So currently there are 4 safe zones in the Gaza Strip, but more safe zones will be created in the coming weeks. And in these safe zones, the Palestinians will come, show an ID, saying, we are not Hamas members, we want food. They will get a box filled with food supplies that will last their entire family for 7 days. So this is what the IDF, together with the United States and international civilian companies, have been doing in certain areas in the Gaza Strip. So of course, the civilian population of Gaza want to reach these safe zones and get this humanitarian aid. But who doesn't want them to reach these areas? It's not Israel, it's Hamas terrorists. And we see, and the IDF released drone footage of Hamas gunmen firing at the Palestinian crowds as they are going to these humanitarian zones. Okay, so Hamas wants to stop the Palestinians from receiving free humanitarian aid because they want to keep using them in order to gain money to pay the salaries and to continue this war of terror against Israel. Okay, but like what we've seen with Hamas from day one of this war, they use everything that they are doing bad to the Palestinian people in order to blame Israel. And sadly, the international media is buying into their lies again and again. I don't get it. Why would you believe a terrorist organization instead of the only democratic state in the Middle East? You know
what? So there's something very poetic about this. When you're explaining this very kind of obvious truth, why would Israel want to fire at these people? There's a dog barking at you, right? Like, shut up, don't talk. I don't want to hear the
exactly.
news. And I guarantee you on the comment section on the YouTube page.
This dog, by the way.
See, it was him all the time. But the people in the comment section, not the people, the haters, the trolls, be like, oh, this is Zionist propaganda, Israel News Channel. And it's like, no, this is just the facts on the ground. Why would Israel want to fire at Gaza civilians? So, Yair, again, there's a lot of conflicting reports. You look at CNN, the BBC, Al Jazeera, AP over the past few days, and there are lots of reports that Israel, the IDF, is the one responsible for this. So I know you are, again, probably one of the people that knows most intimately what is actually happening on the ground. So again, from your perspective, Yair, can you say definitively that that Israel is not the one doing this?
Yes, definitely. I've seen personally many times in the Gaza Strip when I was there with the IDF that every time Israel enters an area to fight the terrorists, they let the Palestinian civilian know that this is going to be a war zone. You should move to a safe zone. And then the IDF is telling them which corridor to use in order to safely reach the safe zone. And what happens when the Palestinian people want to move to that area? Hamas terrorists keep firing mortars and AK-47 bullets and RPGs at their own people, trying to prevent them from leaving their houses so that they can keep using them as human shields. This is no difference. We see that Hamas is losing its power militarily in the Gaza Strip because of the Gideon's Chariots operation that the IDF is waging against Hamas. That's one. And then second, Hamas is losing its grip on the Palestinian population because it loses its only leverage, which is the humanitarian aid that it was selling to the Palestinian people at very, very high prices. And we see this because just a week ago, there were reports of Palestinians from within the Gaza Strip breaking into a Hamas storage facility that contained humanitarian aid that was stolen from the Palestinian people and kept for Hamas use. So the Palestinian people had enough, and they're not as afraid of Hamas as they used to be because it has been weakened. So I would say that if you want to pray for something in the situation, is pray for the Palestinian people to have the courage to stand up against the Hamas terrorists.
So I think for a lot of folks, what's really complicated is, where do I find accurate information? You know, I can excuse, I've made mistakes tons of times as a member of the media. So, you know, if someone writes a headline that's whatever, there's some details or whatever, like, I'll give you grace. I hope I receive that same grace. But when you look at, again, not to call people out, but it's, I mean, even Mike Huckabee made a statement where he called out, you know, organizations like CNN, the BBC, and the Associated Press, obviously Al Jazeera. If this was a one-time thing where there were these, blood libels really against Israel, it'd be like, okay, maybe they got this wrong. But this keeps happening over and over and over again from these quote unquote reputable news outlets. So where can people find accurate information? And I guess more importantly, Yair, both you and I are followers of Yeshua. We believe in discernment and wisdom given by the Holy Spirit. How do we process this avalanche of conflicting reports that we get every single day about what's happening in your part of the world?
Well, first of all, it's very hard because you get so much information. It's hard to know what's accurate, what's not accurate. These days, you can, create any kind of video that you want. And in general, the angle of the camera can decide the whole agenda behind this video and what you want to say. So it's very hard. So I would say when you are praying for the peace of Jerusalem or in general, ask God to really help you understand what really is happening. I mean, of course, I would say watch TBN Israel and myself or CBN and, and get truthful information from people who actually believe in the Bible and believe in God, which is always helpful. But I would say, understand the facts and then think about what even is logical and makes sense. Because if Israel did not want the Palestinian people to get the aid, we would not invest money and efforts and risk our soldiers' lives in defending these safe zones that are distributing the food to the Palestinian people. All we want is that the Palestinian people will get the food and not Hamas. So I think this is kind of something that people should be happy with and should stand with the IDF that is risking our soldiers' lives to get food to the Palestinian people. Again, there are a lot of reports about live fire being shot at Palestinian people, and every report like that is being investigated by the IDF. I mean, this is an active war zone. People get hurt all the time. The difference between us and the Hamas terrorists is that we don't automatically go and blame the other side. We are investigating the facts on the ground, and if something is out of order, people are held accountable, even if it's the IDF soldiers. If they're doing something out of line, they go to jail. They are getting kicked out of the army. Their ranks are being torn away from them. This is the difference between a democratic state with a moral army and a terrorist group that is hiding behind the civilians, its own civilians in the Gaza Strip.
Well, Yair Pinto, toda raba, achi.
Thank you very much.